6 of them have passed. Lane Kiffin, Zach Arnett. Let's start with Arnett in Mississippi State. If you had to assign him a letter grade for how he has coached the season so far, not the team, the coach specifically, how you would grade Zach Arnett at the halfway point of the 2023 season, you would give him a grade of what?
Yeah, well, I hate to be harsh, but how can it not be like a D? I mean, I feel like, I may be being generous, to be totally honest with you. If you said F, I wouldn't argue too hard against you. He doesn't appear to be comfortable defensively, which is supposed to be his area of expertise. This team has taken a massive step back. Offensively, they've been inconsistent. And they're sitting at 3-3, which, again, I predicted them to be 3-3 at this point, but this is not the 3-3 that I predicted. They were completely uncompetitive with a LSU team that we have since seen does not have the defense to be as dominant as they were against Mississippi State. Against South Carolina, defensively, they just fell apart and cost themselves a game that they could have won. They just haven't been very good this year. They haven't been very consistent this year, and they've put themselves in a really bad position through 6 games. So D is where I would put Zach Arnett.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think, by the way. It's crazy to think, by the way, that if it was the 3-3 that I had in my mind back in July and August had happened, I'd say A. The record isn't the issue.
It's the way they've looked, and that's so. Yeah. I don't think you can give a failure because they have won all of their non-conference games. They did beat Arizona. Now lose to Arizona, and you might be having that conversation possibly.
A little difference, yeah.
It's not losing to LSU and losing to Alabama. Although what's crazy to say is they played Alabama better than State has in recent years. Anyway,
yeah,
I mean,
they have.
They were better there. D's an appropriate letter grade, especially when it feels disorganized. You said it yesterday. You kind of hit the nail on the head, and I was meaning to climb on some state message boards to see if anybody resonated with what you said. That's not natural him. That can't be.
Right.
For 3 years, when you got to talk to him on Thunder and Lightning or when he joined our show or just in press conferences, there was real personality there. And now he was kind of like grumbly football guy, but there was authenticity to grumbly football guy. And it feels like it's not authentic. And I point back to after the Alabama game, even though the team played better than State has in recent past, as we mentioned, the not being confident in a decision that you made because it went poorly, the kind of walking back a decision, I shouldn't have made that decision even though it was the right one, the lacking confidence, it feels like it's kind of coming out of that program is he's not confident in what he's doing. And maybe he is. I'm not inside of his mind, but it feels like Zach Arnett's just not comfortable doing what he's doing right now. And hopefully maybe the bye week will inspire some of that to let go of the coach speak, let go of that. Sometimes your players screw up, and it's okay to say so. There's a difference between throwing a player under a bus and being honest about what the player did. It's okay to do that. Be yourself. Be comfortable. Be confident in the decisions that you're making because you're not making bad decisions all the time. Not everything that fails means the process was a failure, if that makes sense. So,
right.
Yeah, D for Zach Arnett. Lane Kiffin.
I mean, how do you not give him an A, right? I mean, especially when you think about him being sort of the opposite of Arnett, right? In that Arnett, defensive coach, the defense has been bad. The offense has been pretty good for Ole Miss. I mean, outside of the game against Alabama, they've been really, really good. The LSU game, I feel like Lane Kiffin won that game. I thought his play calling was spot on. Now, obviously, defensively, they weren't very good, but his play calling was spot on. He called the right plays at the right time. And I just feel like, the comments he made the other day about the fans, where he said, I've been hard on them, but after this game, I have to get. That shows growth. That shows some maturity. That shows that he's starting to get comfortable there, in Oxford, in a good way. You can be comfortable in a bad way. I feel like he's comfortable in a good way there in Oxford. So, I mean, if you wanted to say, look, they should have been more competitive with Alabama. They need to be a little bit more consistent, and you want to say B+. I can get behind that, but I think Kiffin's done a fine job thus far.
Mine is A-. So if you told every person affiliated with Ole Miss, fan, coach, if you got truth serum out of the coaches, they would have taken 5-1 after 6 weeks, considering having Alabama and LSU and Arkansas, and for that matter, a road trip at Tulane. Just kind of throw that in there if you'd like. Being 5-1 at this spot, if you'd have told us in August that that's what Ole Miss was going to be, the reaction would have been, oh, wow. Like, that's a great start to the season. And yes, they could have played better at Alabama. There's a chance that they could have won that game if they played better, but they didn't. But being 5-1 at this spot is absolutely worthy of having an A grade. The reason I do A- is because of how Alabama went. Not losing to Alabama, but that game still felt like he approaches that game differently than all the others. And that's, I think, a knock on this season so far for him is just moving forward. If you get to play Nick Saban again, treat it like any other week. Don't do the press conference stuff. Don't do anything you wouldn't do for any other opponent. Just handle that game and approach it the way you do all the others, and that's fine. Yeah. But they've gotten better in the fourth quarter. They are significantly better in the fourth quarter on both offense and defense than they were a year ago. That was a real problem. Ole Miss would come out of the half and be bad last year. It simply were not good. Red zone offense has gotten better as well. So things you were looking to see improve on, they did. The quarterback situation didn't get weird at all. And it could have gotten weird, and it didn't. That was handled much better than it could have gone, for sure. There was no charade. I mean, publicly there was one, apparently internal within the team and the players. Everybody knew what the score was long before anybody was named a starter. Internally, it was handled well. So quarterback has gotten better, and that was handled fine. They've gotten better in the red zone. They've gotten better in the fourth quarter. Alabama week got weird, and that's not good. But 5-1 at this point is worthy of an A- for sure. We did get a message, Will Hall F. Yeah, I didn't want to pile on because of what we talked about earlier, but if you want to loop Will Hall in there, I really can't. I mean, this season to this point has been a failure.
Very disappointing. Very disappointing, yeah. Yeah, there's no getting around that. I think Will Hall, the thing is, I think Will Hall would tell you the same. I think he'd just look at you, he's like, I have not done a good job. He would be the first to tell you.
Dwayne says Arnett, a big C, needs to get more involved in the defense. Another one, you have to give at least a C- until he loses a game you didn't expect.
I mean, that's a good point. I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, especially with LSU, seeing LSU give up 700 yards and 50 points to Ole Miss, seeing them give up, I don't know how many yards it was to Missouri, but nearly 40 points to Missouri. And State had 14 points and 200 yards. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Another one, D-. He's shown no coaching moxie or mojo, nothing that is for his team to hang their hat on. George in West Point says, I would give him a C-. We all felt like they would lose to LSU and Alabama, but not so much to South Carolina.
I mean, I thought they were going to lose to South Carolina, but at the same time, I thought they had a chance to win. And here's the thing: they did have a chance to win. They did. They just didn't get it done.
No, they did not. Jonathan says the college football season is already half over. Time slow down. He also says, as a Rebel, I'll gladly take 5-1 at this point. Another one, good call. I agree with both of you. We appreciate that, JT. Glad you're with us.
Hey.
Jim in Grenada says, defensive-minded coaches do not make good head coaches. With all due respect, Jim, the winner of the two most recent
in the conference
national championships.
Yeah. Top two coaches in the conference are defensive guys, Saban and Smart.
Yeah, for sure. The play calling at Alabama and the clock management. Clock management for Kiffin. I don't know if that's a negative. I don't know. I disagree with you there, but yes, you can absolutely.
Maybe he left LSU too much time, but I mean, it worked out. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there.
Well, we'll get to more